My name is El Keys. What is your name?
My name is Allan Keys.
It is the 18th of November, 2025. We are in New Braunfels, Texas. And this interview has been conducted for the Library of Congress Veterans History Project. Where were you born?
I was born in Hazen, North Dakota.
Who were your parents and what were their occupations?
My dad was Wade Keys, and he was an electrician in a power plant. And my mother was Sandy Keys, and she was a homemaker.
Who are your siblings?
I have one sister, Elizabeth.
Did they serve in the military?
She did not.
What were your parents' or siblings' feelings about you joining the service?
My father was definitely disappointed at first. He wanted me to go to the same college he went to be an electrician, North Dakota State College of Science. And my mom was disappointed because she thought I had the intelligence to go to college, which I did. But I think my dad was concerned of just being in that Vietnam generation. The stigma around the Marines was kind of still on his mind. But in the end, they became very excited about it in the end.
What did Elizabeth think?
Elizabeth, I don't think she was necessarily thought it was a bad idea. I know she was going to be sad she wasn't going to see me, but I think in the end she was also very proud of my decision.
What primary or secondary schools or college did you attend?
After high school and after the Marines, I went to San Diego City College for my generals. And after my generals, I ended up going through Grantham University online to complete my degree in electronics engineering.
What kind of jobs did you hold prior to entering the military?
I did a lot of jobs. Started off as a kid with a mowing business, shoveling snow, raking leaves, baling hay, branding, did anything kind of work that my dad needed for electrical work. And then I worked at a gas station in Beulah called Highway Express as just a cashier, and did that all the way until I graduated and left from boot camp. So
very cool. Can you tell us about when you went into the military?
when?
Yes.
I went into the military on July 7th, 1999.
Why did you join?
Why did I join? I joined the Marines, I think, because I've always knew I was smart enough to go to college. I always felt like I was a little bit tougher in a lot of ways. Like I never really gave up on things. Like when things got tough, a lot of people would kind of quit. I always felt like I seemed to have another gear and could kind of dig in and kind of survive things longer. And I felt like I had heard about the Marines being just kind of a tougher breed, that I feel like that's kind of where I belonged. And I also had a tremendous patriotism at my age. I just felt like I always had something I had to kind of give back to my country for what they've done for me. And I also just felt like if I stayed there, I felt like I was always going to be stuck in North Dakota. And I felt like I wanted to kind of see the world a little bit first. So I originally looked at the Navy, and the Navy recruiter was kind of a overweight fella. And I went to the Marines right after that, and the recruiter, Staff Sergeant Loeffler, looked like a typical Marine, like was built well and had like a great uniform and just presented himself better. So that's why I joined.
Okay. Why did you get to your initial point? Oh no. How did you get to your initial point of entry?
My initial point of entry, I'm guessing, is probably MEPS. So I went to MEPS Fargo, North Dakota. That's how I went into the Marines. I went down there initially for the delayed entry program, got all signed up. Basically spent about a year in the delayed entry program in high school, and then came back down to Fargo. And I can't remember exactly who took me. I just believe my recruiter took me down there for the entry into boot camp. But went to Fargo, got dropped off, flown to San Diego, and then went to boot camp that next day in July 5th, I believe, went to boot camp.
What type of training or schooling did you have? Advanced course, warrant officer, basic, just regular boot camp?
What kind of training did I have?
Mm-hmm.
So I started, of course, going to boot camp. Went to boot camp in July through October of '99. After boot camp, I went to Marine Combat Training, MCT, in Camp Pendleton. And I believe that was roughly 3 weeks of just combat training for non-combat personnel. So it's kind of an easier form of combat training compared to ICB. And after that, I went to Pensacola, Florida for my A school. And my A school is called Aircraft Electrician Common Core. And I took that school with the Navy aircraft electricians in Pensacola. And that went from November till, I believe, April or May of 2000. And then after that, I went to my C school, which was in Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point. And that was it's called a aircraft power generation instrumentation flight controls technician fixed wing for the MOS code of 6432. Basically working on F-18s and Harriers on an eye level, component level process. So it was very specific training that I took in Cherry Point. And after that, then I reported myself to my duty station in Yuma, Arizona in June of 2000. And after that, I was just basically working after that.
Okay. When you went to boot camp, what were you most excited for and what were you most scared of?
Most excited for, I think, was going to the rifle range. I think I was really excited about that part because I've always been a pretty good shot, and I knew it was going to be one of those things I was going to excel at. And in the rifle range, it was one of those things that I was sorely disappointed because I learned a lot on how to shoot a rifle, and I got much better at shooting a rifle. Learned all kinds of interesting techniques of just kind of where your body naturally wants to go and how to adjust your body for a better shot. And I was a great shot all the way through my rifle qualification training. But the day I qualified, I don't know what happened, but every shot I was taking was not even hitting the target. And the problem is they are so focused on getting these guys qualified, they're not going to try and help you. So I was getting a lot of no impact, no ideas, and they're saying, hey, just keep finishing. We don't have time to help you figure it out. So I ended up shooting a marksman out of boot camp, and it was the most devastating thing in the world for me. So that hurt. Of course, I got to my Yuma, and I ended up qualifying as an expert later, but it was hard to stomach that one. And the scariest thing I was worried about was the water qualification, because there's a lot of rumors about how hard it is, and there are parts of it that can get hard. It just depends on how far you want to go into the process, what what class of qualification you want to shoot for. I think it starts off with 4th class, 3rd class, 2nd class, 1st class, and 3rd class is pretty much where everybody kind of stays at. But I tried to go to 2nd class, and I nearly got drowned, and it was pretty intense. And I'm not a phenomenal swimmer, so it did kind of scare me at that point. So I realized I'm just going to be happy with a 3rd class qualification and go on to the next thing. So.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any close friends around? Did you join with somebody?
Yeah, I joined the Marines with a guy. His name is Nathan Peterson from Eastern North Dakota. I can't remember the name of the town. Somewhere near Valley City. Great guy. He ended up joining air traffic control, and we actually went to boot camp at the same time with different platoons. I never really saw him that much, but then we went to Pensacola together because he was also air traffic control, which they also trained in Pensacola. So while he was trying to learn air traffic control and while I was trying to learn aircraft electronics, we had to hang out together. So we became really good friends in Pensacola, and then I believe I stopped. I didn't see him again after Pensacola, and I've reached out to him, and I believe he's somewhere in Minnesota or something like that, and I believe I think he's like a still air traffic controller, but just a great guy. So I went to boot camp with him. Yeah. So
Was he from your hometown?
He was not from my hometown. He was from North Dakota, so it was close enough.
Close enough. Okay. Is there any fun stories you want to share?
Boot camp?
Yes.
So boot camp, I think some funny stories. Here's a good one. So rifle range. I don't think it was a qualification day. It was just a training day, and I'm sitting on this bench. And what it is, you when you're not in the firing line, you sit on a bench with your rifle. The guy's in front of you. He's firing on the range, either in the sitting or prone or standing position. And this big guy from West Monroe, Louisiana, walks up to me and says, "Hey, I want to sit down and scoot over." So I just slid across the bench. And when I did it, I felt something stick in through my jeans into my butt cheek. And it hurt really bad. But it's boot camp. You don't want to like show any kind of pain. You don't want to like get any kind of attention. So you just deal with it. And I was in incredible pain. And I was just trying to pretend it didn't happen, but it did. And then right after that, of course, we get into formation and we march back to our barracks. And while we're marching back, a guy behind me is like, "Keys, there's blood on your cami pants on your butt cheek. What is going on?" I was like, "I got to figure this out when I get back." So what we have in boot camps, we have different guys in different jobs. Like you'll have a whiskey locker recruit. You'll have what's the guy? The witch doctor. You'll have just the scribe. So I have to find the witch doctor, which is basically, or medic, technically. The only kid that's in your platoon that has any kind of medical training at all, they'll call him the witch doctor. So you go to him first. I went to him, said, "I need to talk to you in the bathroom and show you I have an injury on the back of my butt back here that you need to look at." So he looks at it, and he's like, "That is terrible. I can see the wood had broken off." And it was like literally like a chunk of wood sticking out. And he was trying to pull it out, but every time he pulled it, it broke off more. And it's got stuck in there. And he's like, "I need to call somebody else in." So they ended up getting the drill instructor in. And this drill instructor, his name is Sergeant Bays. He was a Force Recon Marine. Just an absolute menace, like the meanest guy in the world. And he enjoyed making fun of me with this situation. So he says, "I'll be right back." He brought nearly the entire barracks of drill instructors into this bathroom to laugh at my situation. And they're like, we're still trying to pull it out, break it off. They finally said, "You know what, just put a bandage over it, put some gauze over it, and get back to the barracks." So I went back into the barracks and had a gauze on it, and I kept it on there for a week or two. And years later, I could still feel it. And it finally dissolved over like decades, and now it's no longer there. So that was one of the big injuries I had. And the other thing that kind of was funny about boot camp was one of the things that was kind of funny about boot camp was I was standing in formation one day, parade rest, kind of just waiting for the next thing to do. And I was rubbing my belly for some reason. And this one senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Morrell, this big black dude, completely terrifying. He runs up to me. He's like, "Are you hungry, Keys? Huh? I'll make you hungry." And he basically gave me this tag, and you hang it on your button on your pocket, and it was fat body. When you wear a fat body tag, that means when you go through the chow hall, they see that tag, and they're like, "We can't give him regular food. All he gets is salad and water, and that's all you get." Because they're trying to get these guys that are fat down to a regular weight. So
how much did you weigh going in?
I went in at 180 pounds, and during this time, I dropped down to 160 pounds during this period of wearing this tag, and I was so skinny. One of the drill instructors saw me, and he was like, "Keys, you look terrible. What is going on? We got to get you fattened up before your family sees you. Give me that tag, and I'll give you a double rations tag." It's called double rat. I wore that tag all until I graduated. I got back up to 180 pounds or 70 pounds. So that was one of the things that really scared me. So pause it.
Okay. Does any particular instructor stand out in your mind?
Boot camp, yes. Senior drill instructor, Staff Sergeant Morrell.
Mm-hmm.
He was incredibly intense. But at the end, I think he ended up being like one of my favorite people. I ended up seeing him again years ago in Yuma at the exchange. Like he was there for WTI one day, and I ran into him, and it was pretty exciting to kind of see him. And I've always been fascinated. I always feel like when I do certain things in my life now, I still kind of think what would Staff Sergeant Morrell say in this situation. So I think he's been an incredible influence on me. So I'll never forget him.
What was your first assignment after basic training?
After basic training, of course, went to combat training for a couple weeks, and then went on to Pensacola, Florida, and was there going through the aircraft electrician course. And I would say it's one of my favorite duty stations I've ever been a part of. Pensacola was beautiful. Got to play a lot of golf. Got to play a lot of sand volleyball. Just loved the whole town and the vibe of it. And after that, of course, went on to Cherry Point. Hated Cherry Point. That was the worst station in the Marines. There's just nothing to do there, especially if you don't have a car. You're just like stuck on base, and we would go to the same little tiny burger joint on base and play the same video games, and it was just boring as hell. So I didn't like Cherry Point at all. But of course, went on to Yuma. I was there for 4 years, Yuma. So.
Did you get a lot of free time?
Yes, especially in Yuma. So when I first got to Yuma, it was in 2000, and things were just kind of really quiet. The Harriers at the time were actually grounded for engine issues. They were, I forget exactly what Rolls-Royce issue that was, but they had them grounded for felt like almost a year. And during that time, we really didn't have a whole lot of workload. So when I first got to my duty station, my NCOIC, my boss, was Staff Sergeant Studley. And Staff Sergeant Studley loved to play softball and loved to drink beer. So every day it felt like we got out of work at like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and then we'd meet up at the softball fields and have a keg and just drink beer and play softball. And if we weren't doing that, when I first got to my duty station, I had this Marine, Billy Evers. He was like this big country boy from Georgia. It's like 6'5", 270 pounds. Walks up to me, he says, "Do you lift weights?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "We're gonna lift weights with me." And we just started lifting weights together. Either I was lifting weights or playing softball, or in our shops we had, so where I worked in Yuma, we had multiple shops. I was part of 620 on this called Avionics Van Pad. We had 620, we had 610, we had 650, 670 cal, 690 micro miniature repair, like wire soldering guys, 990, which is like van maintenance. These guys would all like kind of play sports against each other. And when I first got to Yuma, 620 like was the king of all sports. Like we would beat every shop in basketball and football and soccer. It didn't matter. We were just a whole shop full of athletes. So we just dominated for years. And then of course, over a period of time, like for my last year or two, we got different guys that started coming in that weren't like pure athletes, and we started losing again. But yeah, for the first like year, it was definitely lots of free time. Like enough free time where I ended up having second jobs. Like while I was in Yuma, I had a job working at a gas station, just making extra money. I worked as a telemarketer, making extra money. Worked at a strip club as a bouncer, making extra money. So there's like time to like do extra work. So lots of free time until you deploy. Then there's extra work.
So your service date was till 2004.
Mm-hmm.
What is your 9/11 story?
My 9/11 story was we just got back from PT, so we PT'd on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I know 9/11 was either a Tuesday or a Thursday. And we just got back from PT, me and my buddy, or my roommate, Carlos Silvel. And I believe I was looking at the TV, looking at the news, getting changed to go to work, and I was like, "What is this?" Like, I thought it was like I saw the news and I thought it was like a movie, like some like new
Like a trailer.
Independence Day movie or something. Oh, this is pretty incredible CGI and our graphics. And then I was talking to Carlos about it. I was like, dude, check out this movie. And he comes in because we had like a communal bathroom. He was brushing his teeth in there. And he walks into the room that I'm watching the TV at. And we both watched the second tower get hit. And we're like, oh, that's not an accident. We got to get. So immediately we started getting phone calls on both of our cell phones, like, get the shop right now. So we get her changed as quick as we can. We just ran to the shop. And when we ran to the shop, it's about a half mile, and I was watching like people getting escorted off base. Like they're immediately shutting the whole base down. No more civilians. Putting up all these like traffic control like dividers, and the whole base got shut down. Just military personnel only that day. And I got to the shop, and they were like trying to get planes off the flight line to fly and to protect the West Coast. And the problem is we didn't have enough batteries, so we had to run. We were the battery shop as well, so I had to run batteries to the flight line. And these are like, call them slab batteries. They're big red batteries, and they're like 80 pounds each. And I was having to carry these things and throw them on all these little tugs, get them to the flight line. In the process, my secret security clearance badge fell off somewhere. So I go back to my shop and I can't get in. They're like, you lost your badge? I'm like, I can't find it. And they're like, of all days, you're going to lose your badge on 9/11? I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. So my gunny was kind of upset about it. So he's like, you know what? Go check in with the commanding officer's office. They have a job for you. So I go over to the CO's office, and they say, go to the armory, check out your M16, come back. We need you to guard the commanding officer outside of his room. So I literally stood 18 hours on, 6 hours off. And when 6 hours off, I'd go to the NBC locker across the street and sleep on just a pile of gas masks. That was like my bed, because I was just so exhausted every day. But I did that for 18 hours on, 6 hours off for about a week. And the commanding officer like never left his office. He was like went from like such a peaceful, kind of like just a regular job to like, okay, this is actually real. Like we're actually doing Marine stuff now. We're actually preparing for war. And it was like the whole world like went upside down. But it was the busiest time from that point on that I've ever seen. So I kind of came in at the very, very tail end of a nice, quiet peacetime, and then my last 3 years were just nonstop after that. So,
how did that change your outlook?
It changed my outlook, and it's kind of sounds crazy, but I got excited because Marines are. It sounds wild to say this, but Marines love combat. We want to go kill people. We want to like do our job. It's like this. We've been training for stuff like this for so long, and I really thought I just kind of accepted my fate that I'm just going to be a peacetime Marine that never saw anything or didn't go anywhere, and I was just going to be kind of content with that. But then when this happened, man, we got excited. Like we were just beyond excited. Like we cannot believe we're finally going to go actually deal with an enemy, because before that there was none. My first deployment when I got to Yuma was called the 31st MEU, and with the Harriers grounded, I literally just flew over to Iwakuni, Japan. I spent roughly 4 months working on F-18s because the Harriers were down, and half of that time I was called FAP, basically sent to another place. I went to the chow hall and I had to work in the galley washing pots and pans for like 2 solid months, like 18 hours a day, like just so it was kind of surprising, like how what's that? I was just kind of surprised at how much it changed. But yeah, it was definitely a huge change for me. But yeah, I was excited to go do some fun stuff. So, and we were all excited.
So you had wartime service?
Yeah, so my wartime service is, of course, not real war combat because I was just an aircraft electrician. But my wartime, I would say, is my deployment we were deployed for the shock and awe stage of Iraqi freedom. So when I normally deployed, you normally deploy at my shop, you just bring 6 Harriers, We bring them to a LHD or an LHA amphibious assault ship. But this deployment, they really want to bring all the firepower, so we brought 26 Harriers. And 26 Harriers required, of course, more personnel. Normally we brought like 2 guys out of our shop. And this deployment, I believe we brought like a gunny, one of my staff sergeants, and like 6 guys. Like it was a stack full of guys. So that was my main combat, I guess, time was like us just sending off like, I don't know how many missions. I was working night shift, and I would walk through the hangar bay on my way to my shop in the back of the ship, and when I would go to work, I would see a hangar bay full of 1,000-pound bombs, just loaded, wall to wall. And I get done to my shift 12 hours later, all those bombs are gone. So it was just like this nonstop bombing. Like we would send 2 Harriers at a time off this LHD, just one after the other, and they were just bombing pretty much anything they can get close to. And we end up getting a pretty cool video made that's on YouTube if you look it up. And it kind of shows like just what the Harriers saw from all these bombing missions. More or less, they would just find targets like these Iraqis were trying to like hide MiGs and things like that in the desert. They would just put up berms around them. Well, we just see the berm and then just strike it with a 1,000-pounder and blow it up. So we blew up. I heard rumors that we had basically taken out like an entire Iraqi division just by that one ship. So it was a ton of bombing. And then after that, mission was accomplished, according to Bush. So we ended up getting off the ship early because my daughter, Emma, was going to be born in June. So I got off early. Most of the guys were just going to stay on the ship and kind of take their way back to the U.S., just kind of going through all the ports. And I ended up flying back. So me and a couple other Marines got off early. We took an LCAC to Kuwait. And in Kuwait, we stayed in Al Jabar. It's like an Air Force base. And we worked there for about I'd say like 2 or 3 weeks, and I was kind of given a job to kind of guard. They have these bomb bunkers out there, and it's kind of fascinating. They're bombed out from the first Gulf War, from when you forget Iraq went in there and invaded Kuwait. Well, they took over these bomb bunkers in Kuwait, and the U.S. military came in and bombed out the bomb bunkers. And you could go inside these bomb bunkers, you could actually see like shadows of people and stuff, like they'd just been vaporized when these bombs hit. And our job is just basically to guard the workers, which are mainly Indian people, guard them while they were rebuilding these bomb bunkers. So that's what I would do most of the days until our flights were allowing us to fly back to the States. And I flew back to the States, I believe like in the end of May of 2003, and I was home just in time for my daughter Emma to be born.
Did you stay in touch with family during this time?
I did. My last deployment, I did. It was kind of hard. There was like phone calls on the ship were difficult. I think they were super expensive back then. It was like AT&T was charging us a couple bucks a minute. It was not easy. So a lot of us was just kind of sending letters and things like that, the old snail mail. But one of my favorite things that did happen was my sister got married, and I got to talk to her on the phone after she got married, talked to her husband, and I even talked to my best friend Brent, who now lives here in town. So I got to talk to my mom and dad. So it was kind of nice, like to kind of make it work out, because at that time I was in the middle of the Persian Gulf, so it was kind of cool to be able to talk to my sister who was getting married in somewhere in North Dakota. So I do remember that very well. So
did Brent send you anything when you were on?
I don't know if he ever did, but I think there's a lot of care packages, because I think there's definitely a lot, because you forget in 2003 the patriotism in the country was at like a huge high level. So anybody deployed was going to get tons of care packages. The whole country was behind us. It was like a huge like let's go get them from 9/11 kind of feel. So, and that was a nice feeling, but I think that course kind of sadly just kind of dissipated over the years, and I'm sure a lot of folks now probably don't get the care packages we got, because we got some amazing care packages.
Did you ever get like the elementary school things?
Yes, we did all that too.
What was your favorite letter?
trying to think of the letters.
Like a silly drawing?
I think there's definitely a lot of those. I remember those pretty well too. I think they were just all over the ship, I think. I don't think they were necessarily like sent to me, but
Yeah.
I know of a lot of guys, a lot of kids were just like so proud of us doing what we were doing back then. I think it was because when I joined the Marines, I was kind of like looked upon as like kind of like I was crazy. Like all the kids I grew up with and graduated with were kind of pissed that I didn't go with them off to college, and it wasn't a patriotic time, so they thought I was nuts. Like, what are you doing? Why would you do this? Let's all go to college together. Let's go have fun. And I just had this strong desire to go and serve my country. So I was definitely one of very few that did. I think I was the only kid, maybe two other kids in my entire graduating class that joined the military out of high school. So I was definitely a rare person to do.
Where were you when your service ended?
So my service ended in 2004. I actually accumulated what's called terminal leave. I had 60 days of terminal leave. So my last 60 days, I just left and I went and started working in San Diego. So I was in San Diego working at it's called a processing plant called ISP Alginates, which is now shut down. But I started working as a maintenance mechanic almost immediately. And as a fascinating story was before I checked out, my commanding officer had retired, and a new one was going to come in and relieve him. And the new one, nobody in the office knew how to say his last name. And they were really concerned. They're like, we have to figure out this guy's name. We can't say it. He's from somewhere up in the Dakotas. And I was like, let me look at it. And it said Neuberger. And I was like, I know all the Neubergers. He must be from North Dakota. And I was like, is he from North Dakota? And they're like, we don't know. We think so. And I was like, I bet this guy's from my hometown. And then I started thinking about the Neubergers I grew up around. They're just all big Germans, like they're big farmers, got big heads on them. And I look up, and this Lieutenant Colonel Bruce Neuberger. I'll pause it.
There you go. That was good.
Sure.
Yeah.
5% left.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, Bruce Neuberger comes walking in, and I knew exactly who he was. I was like, I know this guy. I grew up around his family, so I ended up introducing himself. And at that time, I was a corporal. I was like, hey, good morning, sir. Welcome to Miles 13. Corporal Keys, mind if I ask you where you're from? And he says, oh, I'm from a small town in North Dakota. I was like, would it happen to be Beulah? And he says, yes. So I was like, I'm from Beulah. And we just became like the best friends, like boys on the block. And all the guys in that administrative office were looking at me like, why are you talking to a lieutenant colonel like your buddies? But it was a small town. We were from the same town of 3,000 people. And it was kind of neat to have that happen. So fast forward to July when I was getting out of the Marines, July 1st, I was actually promoted to sergeant. So he ended up calling me and saying, somehow he got a hold of me on terminal leave and said, hey, you got sergeant. And if you remember, I had 2 NJPs in the Marines, which is like you get busted down. It's a big punishment thing. And 2 NJPs is like, it's a career ender pretty much for anybody. But I got him as both as non-NCO. So I got busted from Lance Corporal to PFC for a DUI, which was this underage drinking. And then I got busted from PFC to private for falsifying government statements, basically not admitting to driving a car on base with a suspended license on base. So I got busted on a private. So I had to work my way up from private all the way back up to sergeant. So I got out as a sergeant in July. And he says, hey, I want to pin you sergeant, and I want you to tell the story about how you were able to get back from 2 NJPs all the way back to sergeant in 5 years. I was like, that'd be an amazing thing, sir. I was like, but I'm kind of stuck here working. I don't have time to take off. And he understood, but that was the opportunity I had, is go back. But I got sergeant in July as I was getting out, and I got out 4 days later, July 5th, as a sergeant.
So how'd you get a DUI?
So I got back from my first deployment. We got back in, I believe, oh gosh, something like January or February of 2001. And I started becoming really good friends with these guys like Carlos Ovell and Billy Evers and stuff. And me and Billy went out to this one bar in Yuma. It used to be a famous bar called Ron's place, and it's a biker bar, and we were sitting there just kind of drinking these $10 Long Island iced teas, which are like these pitchers of Long Island liquor, and I had drank one, and I was like, all right, I'm just gonna pace myself. I gotta drive back. So we end up having somebody drive us to a casino, and we had a $1 breakfast. We just kind of cooled off for a while, and I was pretty much sober. I got in the truck and drove back to base, and military police said they smelled alcohol in the truck, and they said, we need you out of the vehicle. So I got out, I did a field sobriety test, fine. I blew a breathalyzer, I blew a .052, which is like legally not drunk, legally able to drive, but I was only 20 years old. So because I was 20 years old, they said, we're gonna give you a DUI, and I got busted. So I did a bunch of restriction, a bunch of EPD. I did 45 for that. And then the problem was my license was suspended on base for a year from that point. Well, fast forward a year later, I guess I just assumed I could drive again. It was going to get reinstated automatically. So I'm driving a vehicle on base, and I got pulled into the military police again. And they said, were you driving this vehicle on base? And I just wouldn't admit to it. I thought something else was going on. I thought there was they had found drugs or something like that. So I wasn't going to admit to it. And they said, okay, well, we have a staff sergeant that you work for saw you drive the vehicle. So I got busted. It's called Article 107, basically lying. And if you lie, falsifying government statements, that's another bust. I got busted from PFC to private. So I did 60 days extra police duties, 60 days restriction. So I did a lot of restriction, a lot of EPD. It was tough.
Regarding end of service, did your GI Bill support your education?
It did. So I had a GI Bill, and I also qualified when I joined for the Marine Corps College Fund, which was it brought up to $50,000. And when I was in the Marines, they offered us kind of a way to kind of increase your GI Bill even more, which I forget what we paid a little bit extra. So I think at the end I ended up having $65,000 to pay for college. So I paid for all my college plus some. Actually, we kind of lived off of it because when I was going to college, I think full time I was getting $1,500 a month, and of course my college was nothing. So that money helped kind of save us and keep us fed while we were poor college kids, me and your mom. So it helped us a lot.
Did you join any veteran organizations?
I've not really joined, but I have been providing a lot of things for the veterans. I do a lot of things with hospice care. I sit down with veterans that are in hospice and listen to their stories. We honor veteran ceremonies for veterans in hospice care, and just kind of do anything I can with veterans that are in some kind of hospice type care, end of life care. So,
do you attend any reunions?
I have not actually, and I think I need to reach out to some guys because I think some of the guys in my old shop, Work Center 620 in Yuma, they have done some reunions, I think in Vegas and things like that. And I'm not on social media, so I need to kind of track some down and find the next one is.
I keep seeing them on social media all the time, the balls and stuff.
Yeah, what's that? The Marine Corps ball is really fun. That's one thing I do miss.
They all look so pretty. So I know you're disabled.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think your hearing loss is caused by working on planes?
Absolutely, yeah. I think people don't realize the Harrier, of all the planes I can think of in the Marines, was probably the loudest. It's an incredibly loud plane. Anything around it is just, it's deafening. So I had enough exposure to the Harrier that I think it caused some pretty substantial hearing loss. And of course, I think it's just one of those things that we all kind of knew was going to happen. So part of the job is having loud planes around you.
Is there any injuries that you think you got from the Marines?
So I've had a couple injuries. I've broken my hands, and I've gotten some pretty good back injuries that have kind of made it where life's just a little bit harder, but VA disabilities kind of made it feel a little bit easier on me, and I've been able to take care of a lot of issues and stay healthy as I can be.
How did your military experiences affect your life?
I think it affected my life in a lot of good ways. I think I've kind of had a new perspective on life leaving my hometown and seeing the rest of the world. I think I first got out, I think I started to kind of realize that I came in as a very naive, uh, sweet kid, and I kind of came out kind of hardened, I guess, and a little bit bitter, and a little bit kind of easy to get angry. So it took a little while to kind of adjust to being a normal person again. But that's a typical thing Marines do. Marines have a hard time, I believe, are always going to have a hard time adjusting to being civilians because we just live differently than regular people do.
Yeah. Do you think it helps you with job opportunities?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think I've gotten some great opportunities just by having military service on my record, especially Marines. And I believe just growing up in a North Dakota helped a lot. Just people know that North Dakotans are hard workers, and I think that's definitely given me a lot of great opportunities.
Is there any certain life lesson that you've learned?
Life lessons of being in the Marines. I think the Marines are kind of, it's just basically you get what you put into it. I think I kind of expected to go in there and take over the world, but I was a lot of times I was a little bit too immature at the time to really take advantage of a lot of the opportunities I had, and of course I have a little bit of regret of not doing what I had the ability to do. I kind of got lazy in some places in my career, but I think in the end I'm always going to be proud of what I did in the Marines, and I think the life lesson is kind of never to like look back and hope you did something differently. Just be proud of what you did, because you think about it. I was just a young kid just trying to like survive. So yeah, if I went in right now, of course I'd be doing everything right. But I'm at an age now where I'm just proud of what I did. I'm excited to see the next generation going in, and I'm excited to talk to the older generation ahead of me. So I'm just proud of all of it.
Do you enjoy educating my friends about the military?
I do. I really do. I have a very soft spot for, of course, for the Marines. I have a very soft spot for the Navy. I know a lot about them since your mother was in the Navy. I met her on my last deployment, and I think I have a very soft spot for just the naval traditions, just the esprit de corps of the Marines. And I think I can tell a lot of kids that want to join. I can just tell by just the way they are if the Marines are the right choice for them. You've got to be just a little bit different. The Navy is a little bit different. I know you're a specific kind of person that the Marines are looking for, and when you find a kid that is that kind of person, it's kind of exciting to kind of show them that, hey man, this is where you're gonna flourish in this place. You're gonna love it. So I do enjoy talking to kids about it.
Is there any nice stories you would like to add?
Other stories to add?
Anything?
I can't really think of any really great stories. I've had a wild 5 years. I think I had a lot of opportunities. I think of a lot of missed opportunities. Of course, like when I was, and one of the things I almost went back in the Marines. Like I got out of the Marines in 2004, and in 2005 I was working in a coal mine in Wyoming and hating life, just working my butt off for nothing. There's no camaraderie anymore, and I just felt like I missed it. So I ended up started talking to a recruiter down near Cheyenne, I believe, and he basically offered me to go back in the Marines. It was going to give me a staff sergeant position, a promotion to staff sergeant, advanced electronics school, Beaufort, South Carolina, working on Cobra helicopters, which I was like, and it was going to be O level. I was like I was over the moon for it. I was like, let's go. And then I ended up calling your mom, and I was like, hey, I might join the Marines, might go to do this or that. And well, she was like, well, just come down to San Diego and hang out for a while, and we'll go from there. And I never left. Never went back.
Gotcha. You fell for it. You're like, oh, I guess I'm married now.
Yeah, I think
I guess I
like
have kids.
I think I was just like, I think there's always gonna be a little bit of me that's always gonna miss it. Like I think the Marines are just such a special group of guys that you just gotta experience it to know what I'm talking about, I guess. So I definitely miss it.
Wow. What do you wish more people knew about veterans?
What do you want? What's that?
What do you wish more people knew about veterans?
I wish more people knew, like when you have guys that try and hire veterans, they always want them just because of their work ethic and their ability to like, take orders, whatever it is. I think people need to kind of give them a little bit of leeway when they first start working in places. I think veterans are always going to have struggles with mental health that people just don't really see. And it's not necessarily guys that were in combat. I think it's just the lifestyle is so different. I think we just have just a different set of rules. And when I come into the civilian world, it's a totally different world. Where in the Marines, like if I had a problem with somebody, we had an actual boxing ring and a wrestling mat outside my shop, and you could figure it out outside. And you can't do it as a civilian. So civilian world is just a lot of it's just all this like just this talking crap about each other and this or that. Marines is just we'll just say it to your face, and we're pretty blunt. We expect mission accomplishment first, troop welfare second. We're not gonna like play games. So it's hard to like change that lifestyle. But so I always hope that when people hire veterans, yes, you're gonna get a great worker, but you gotta give them time to adjust to that. It's a totally different world. So give them time for that. So I wish they'd know more about that.
Well, I'd like to thank you for your recollection of military service. Thank you for your time. And is that it?
I guess that's it.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.